Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're cracking open a psychological superpower dossier on a very specific, highly recognizable type of person. Think about your own team for a second. Who is your ultimate resource gatherer? You know, the person you immediately run to when you need an obscure fact, a report from 3 years ago, or a brilliantly curated list of tools to solve a brand new problem? If a face just popped in your head, well, you're probably thinking about someone with the input personality theme. In this explainer, we're going to completely unpack this fascinating trait sourced directly from the SwitchOn Strengths framework. Here's how we're going to break down this profile today. First up, we'll meet the information sponge. Next, we'll explore their superpowers on the balcony, followed by a look at the basement blind spots. Then, we'll dive into fueling the input engine and wrap things up with how input compares. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Meet the information sponge.
We're taking a deep dive into what really makes these individuals tick. At their absolute core, people with the input theme are the ultimate resource providers for any team. They are the collectors. When everyone else is scratching their heads, just trying to figure out how to make a decision, it's the input individual who suddenly produces the exact insights, resources, and valuable information needed to move things forward.
Consider this really brilliant foundational metaphor. Sponge, absorbent input, dispenser output. It's just a fantastic way to visualize this trait. A sponge doesn't just sit there, right? Its entire purpose is to pull things in and hold on to them until pressure is applied. And that is exactly what the input personality does. They've got this natural, almost effortless ability to absorb just massive amounts of information. But crucially, they don't absorb it for no reason. They act as a dispenser. They output that useful knowledge and all those collected resources to others right when it's needed the absolute most.
So, by definition, input individuals are naturally curious people driven to collect information, ideas, and resources that might be valuable in the future. They do this simply because the world completely fascinates them. They get actively energized by discovering and storing things that can help themselves, or really anyone else, grow and succeed. Because of this, their communication style is pretty unique. They always communicate from a place of deep preparation. They are definitely not the wing it type. They prefer to walk into conversations fully equipped with supportive materials, relevant facts, and useful resources. Always investigative and always well-informed.
Section 2. Superpowers on the balcony.
When this personality is operating at its absolute best, what we call being on the balcony, these are the strengths you see in action. You're going to see a really strong curiosity and a natural drive for exploration. They are highly informed, always relevant, and because they maintain such a broad knowledge base, they're naturally resourceful and prepared. They literally bring a vast storehouse of information right into your environment. And the best part? They don't just keep it all locked up. Their superpower is helping others with useful info. They provide the helpful tools and insights that allow everyone else on the team to solve problems and perform better. They are, without a doubt, the trusted source.
Sounds amazing, right? But what happens when that sponge gets a little too full?
Section 3. Beware the basement blind spots. Because every superpower has its kryptonite, we really need to look at what happens when these strengths go unmanaged or get overused. For the input personality, their great strength is obviously gathering. But when that gathering goes completely unchecked, they can easily get bogged down in what we call the basement.
The very drive to collect can so easily turn into clutter and overwhelm. You start to see serious information overload and downright hoarding of resources. So instead of curating the best tools, they might just collect excessive amounts of information without actually applying any of it effectively. They start having a lot of difficulty filtering out what's actually important versus what's just, more information. And this doesn't just affect them, it absolutely impacts the whole team. They can start overwhelming others with excessive detail and way too many resources, really struggling to simplify or prioritize the info they're dispensing. Suddenly, that incredibly helpful sponge is just flooding the entire room.
Section 4. Fueling the input engine. So how do we prevent that flood? How do we properly care for and feed this personality so they stay up on the balcony? This is absolutely crucial for managers and peers to understand. People with input really thrive when their environment actually supports their natural tendencies. First off, they need the freedom to discover. They need regular opportunities to stay informed and continuously expand their knowledge. And yes, this means giving them actual dedicated time to research and read. It's not wasted time for them, it's essential prep work. Also, because they collect so much stuff, they desperately need the physical or digital space to organize those collected resources so they don't just become clutter. And finally, they need chances to share their insights. If they can't dispense what they've spent all this time absorbing, the whole engine basically stalls.
Section 5.
How input compares.
To truly master our understanding of the input personality, we need to clarify its precise boundaries. Sometimes, understanding what a trait isn't is just as important as knowing what it actually is. This helps us pinpoint exactly what motivates this specific kind of person compared to others who might seem pretty similar on the surface.
Let's see how this builds a clearer picture by comparing input with the learner trait. An input person will tell you, I love to collect things that are potentially helpful, but a learner says, I love the process of learning. Do you see the nuance there? The input theme is highly focused on acquiring tangible, practical things, resources, facts, tools that they can actually store and use later. The learner, on the other hand, is motivated by the journey of learning itself, regardless of whether they walk away with a tangible tool at the end. Input absolutely wants that practical asset. We see a really similar distinction when we contrast input with ideation. An input person says, I help by sharing tangible tools I acquired. An ideation person says, I help by sharing creative ideas I conceived. This perfectly highlights the vital difference in their outputs. The input individual is looking outward, acquiring practical tools and information from the world around them to share. The ideation individual is looking inward, generating creative concepts and brand new ideas from within to share. Basically, input is the collector and ideation is the creator.
Which brings us to our final thought for today. Think about your own habits and the dynamics of the people you work with every single day. Are you the sponge your team relies on, efficiently absorbing and dispensing the perfect tools? Or are you perhaps drowning in the details, trapped in the basement of information overload? Understanding this input personality dossier allows us to really appreciate the vital resource gatherers among us, and it helps ensure their incredible capacity to collect always serves as a superpower rather than a stumbling block. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing those traits, and we'll catch you next time.